Come on in, bestie. Welcome to StoryPod, where we do the doing of story development together. Brought to you by Creative BFF. Hello, and welcome to this first video edition of the StoryPod podcast. This is going to be a little bit weird because, we're looking at each other dead in the eyes. All right. So please forgive me. I'm probably going to be a little weird, a little kooky profesh. All right. Now, this is the first video podcast, but this is not the first episode of the podcast that I've ever done. So I'm just going to get comfy. I'm just going to start the way I normally do, which is to say hello and welcome to the StoryPod podcast. My name is Ashley, and you're my bestie. Thank you for joining me. This podcast, and I'm going to say this because since we're here on video, this podcast is brought to you by Creative BFF, which is probably going to be the name of my YouTube channel once Miss Google allows me to actually have my YouTube channel, Miss Google Workspace. Like, she's making me wait for 30 days. But if you're seeing this, then we have passed that time period. So what we're doing today for the first video/audio podcast is we're going to do one of my favorite things, which is to answer a question. Now, because you and I have not found each other yet, come find me. But since we haven't found each other yet, I have been going to Reddit to get people's story questions, and that's how I've been answering questions. But I would really, really love to answer your question. So if you have one, as I already mentioned, please feel free to reach out. Did I tell you where to go? Just in case I didn't, ash@creativebff.com is my email, or you can go to creativebff.com and send me a message through my contact. Please make sure to mention that it's a story question so I don't delete your email, because we get all these spam emails, girl. All right. So also, side note to the side note, okay? I'm going to be looking around. I'm a looky-loo. My eyes float. They bounce around. Okay, so please forgive me if I don't look directly at you in your cute little face. Okay, please believe me, I'm not trying to be rude. I think you're handsome and gorgeous and wonderful, but I have to bounce my eyes. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and let's read this question, which I have on a screen right in front of me. So forgive me as I avert my eyes. So the question is, how to make an immortal regenerative being happy. It is from the Reddit subreddit r/character forge, and the author is Emotional Memory C418. And they write, so in this collaborative world building project me and my friends do, one of the main characters died, but he was immortal. This character had seen everything from the beginning of the universe until his death. He had countless relationships and seen countless wars, but his family would always inevitably die no matter what he did. Anyway, essentially this character died, but a group of cultists brought him back to life, against his will. So now he is really suicidal and all of his friends are dead. Thematically, how could he get out of this low point in his life? Now, if we were doing just an audio, at this point I would stop the recording so that I could think, but listen, you're getting it raw, okay? Real rap raw. We're doing this live, semi-live. So let's just think through this, okay? So based on, if I'm looking over here, I'm looking at the question. Based on what you're setting up for this character, the source of, or at least one of the sources of his low point, his depression, his suicidal tendencies. Since I'm on YouTube, am I allowed to say that? I don't know. I think it's so dumb that we can't use words. But anyway, with that being said, I think then that if we're trying to pull him out of this depressive state, now, of course, listen, this is a sensitive subject. There's all kinds of psychology. I don't even want to necessarily say, let me pull all the way back and not call it a depressive state, because the author didn't use that term. We can assume probably, but didn't use that phrase to describe this character. And I don't want to necessarily tread on anybody's toes or anything like that. And I don't want to necessarily go into detail about something that I don't have maybe the breadth of knowledge that someone would have. So research would be good to do here at this point. But I'm going to narrow it down so that this video doesn't become like an hour long, because girl, your girl can talk. Okay, she can talk. But so that we don't have an hour long video here, I'm going to narrow it down to probably one main thing that you can do that would be, I think, probably the key and the core of bringing this character out of this low point in his life, and that's going to be relationship. That I don't know if that's going to be, well, it's going to really, it's going to depend on your world building, your story, what you're setting up for the character, what the goals and the purpose of this character is. Like, is this a main character? Is this a side character? There's a lot of variables that I don't have access to in terms of what you're doing with your story. But I believe, listen, like an hour ago, I watched a video that happened to mention that one of the key sources of happiness for people is found in relationship, positive relationships, family, that kind of thing. Now, fact check me. Okay, fact check me. Do your research. Okay, I'm coming off the top of the dome. We're coming off the top of the Chrome Dome here. So, of course, there's going to be more work that would need to be done to really make this a really genuine, authentic. Every time I say genuine, I'm really trying to say the word authentic. A really authentic reaction is not the word I'm looking for, but we'll just go with that to make it authentic. We'll just end the sentence there. So do your research, of course, but I think that it's going to be found in bringing some relationships back. Now, of course, this is going to depend. We're going to start brainstorming a little bit here and there. So, for example, if you want to have a romance, now listen, I'm partial to romance. Your girl loves romance. Okay, I love a good romance. So that might be cliche, but it might be my first. The first place that I would go is like, can we give this person a romance? And in order to not fall, unless you want to, if we don't want to fall back into the same cycle that he's going on of losing everybody that he loves, either through old age or, I don't know, violent death, depending on your world, I would say potentially consider making this another Immortal. Now, of course, I also don't know how the logic, the magical logic, the supernatural logic, the spiritual logic of your world works. So I don't know if there are other Immortals. Can there be? Oh, you know what might be fun? We just had a little idea. So what we do have based on this post, sorry, I'm looking at the poster. Based on this post, we do have a world in which there are religious systems that have the ability to bring people back from the dead. Okay, go with me on this. Now, here's the thing. What if, okay, we're still going on the love interest. Okay, what if his enemy from the past, okay, he had an enemy from the past. I don't know what this person did or whatever have you. Maybe it was like, I mean, if this person, this character, has seen the beginning of the universe. Okay, like, listen, you know what? I'm not even going to address it. God characters, I feel like, are kind of challenging, and I wish I knew more about your world, but let's just say there's others of these beings that have been around since the beginning, or maybe not. Maybe this doesn't have to necessarily be another Immortal, like a person who's been around. Yes, Immortal, but not a person who's been around since the beginning of the universe or whatever. But what if it is somebody that he had an issue with, that he had beef with, right? And they also get resurrected. But now we have the opportunity for an enemies to lovers, Mr. Darcy, Elizabeth Bennet, Pride and Prejudice type vibe, which could be really, really nice, really fun. We love that. Or it could be somebody that he was friendly with. Could be somebody that he had loved before. I don't know that we're bringing back. I don't know how this person is immortal. character rather is immortal, and can that immortality be conferred? Is that the correct word? Conferred on another being? Okay, that's a question. So I'm not going to go deep, because if I continue talking down this path of a potential love interest, I will continue and this video will be an hour long. So that's a potential. We have a love interest, somebody who another cult or other cultists within this cult also resurrected, or if there are just immortals walking around in the world, then I have been looking at the wrong lens this whole time. So if my eyes were slightly askew, please forgive me. Okay, we're besties. As I said, don't judge me. Okay, I hope I'm looking at you in your eyes now. But bringing it back. So let's say potential love interest. What was I saying before? Other people who have been resurrected, or if there are other immortals walking around the world, or if there are other people who have the ability to extend their lives, just in general through whatever means, or if there are people who have the ability to remove immortality. And that could be a really nice, this just came to me. That could be really nice too, where if there is a love interest character, or not, doesn't have to be love interest, if there's a way for this character to lose their immortality, that could be really interesting, a very interesting option. I'm just gonna put that right there. I'll put that on the shelf. The potential combination of love interest, potentially immortal in one way or another, or the potential of him losing his immortality, thereby giving his life meaning, giving relationships meaning. At that point, like perhaps there was something going on in the resurrection process that stripped him of that. And so he's like, okay, I don't know if the character has any additional powers, abilities. As I mentioned, I don't know the goal of the world. I don't know what the story is that you're telling. So it may or may not work for this particular character and for your story, but that could be very interesting to see, okay, now what is he going to do? Not being immortal, how is he going to live his life now that his life actually matters and there's a time limit on it? Like, how did he die? Hold on, let me look back over here. So he did die, that there could be something in that as well. The way that he died, maybe that was that, whatchamacallit? What did I call it? That kind of enemy that becomes the love interest. Okay. So there's that. Could be a dog, other types of relationship. He gets a dog, an animal that follows him around, or maybe not a dog, but some other kind of animal, a cat or something like that, that begins to soften him and begins to bring him back. Because that's like a thing, right? Where people who are dealing with tough emotional times find a lot of comfort and solace and love in a pet of some sort. So that could be one of the solutions, one of the ways that he starts coming out of that funk. Friendships. Does he make friends among the cultists, or do the cultists just have, their own ends in mind? Like, did they resurrect him for some purpose of their own, and they don't really necessarily see him as a person that has his own will and whatever? They just expect that, okay, this is just going to be a force to do what we want to do. So that's also another question that I don't have the answer to. Is like, okay, well, why did they resurrect him? What was their purpose? And there could be a lot of interesting stuff going on there. Perhaps one of the cultists, becomes a close friend, and there's a really nice opportunity for, like, buddy cop type of vibe. This person kind of trying to, what is the word? What are the words that I'm trying to say? Trying to get him used to this world that he's been resurrected into. There is the possibility for a lot of fun things there. And then also just seeing the difference between the last world that he lived in. I don't know how long it's been since he has been alive, so there could be a drastic difference from the life he was living before versus the world that he's resurrected into now. Is the world that he's resurrected into now a lot more comfortable, a lot nicer, have a lot of the problems that were happening at the time when he was alive before been solved? And so in general, the world is not as, stressful, janky, heartbreaking, and there's a lot of opportunity for some really nice soul searching, coming to terms with things from his past, depending on whatever happened, reflecting on the relationships that he had and kind of healing from that pain of losing all of those people, everybody that he's loved. And perhaps it was through betrayal as well. Maybe there was another immortal that he had finally found and he was living with, and that person also died. And then finally he died, maybe in the same kind of time. Maybe they were killed, because of fear in the world that they were living in at the time that they were living in the world, that kind of thing. So perhaps now a goal that he has, now that he knows that there's a potential of resurrection, perhaps his goal is now to resurrect that person. And maybe it's not easy. Maybe there's only so much resurrection power to go around. And it was like, we spent everything we had on bringing you back. And so now there's a quest that he can go on to try to figure out a way to bring this person back that he loved. And maybe he fails, and maybe it's never about that. Maybe the point of the journey is not to actually do that. But along the way, perhaps he finds relationship and love and healing. And so now he no longer needs to bring that person back. Or if he succeeds in bringing that person back, perhaps it's not the roses and rose petals and whatever the phrase is. It's not as nice, it's not as wonderful as he thought it would be for them to come back. Maybe it's even down to something that goes wrong in the resurrection process, or they didn't want to be resurrected for whatever reason, and so they're mad that they're back. So all of that. Now, I don't know, maybe I deviated a little bit, okay? But the core of my answer will be the first place that I would look to try to find a way, okay, and I'm reading the question, to try to find a way to bring him out of the low point in his life. Of course, there's going to be elements that depend on what you're setting up for your story, for the character, the other characters, the world that you're building. All of these things are going to inform the way that you bring him out of it. But I think that the audience will be able to relate to, because, it's part of the human condition that we, in general, okay, this is not a blanket statement. I guess I can't say like everybody, but in general, most people want good relationship. Good, positive, happy, loving relationships bring joy in life. And we're kind of made to be that way, right? So community, friendship, love, caring about someone other than yourself, all of these things really markedly, I was going to say exponentially, but I don't know if that's accurate, but really do increase happiness for human beings. Now, if this is not a human, then maybe it's going to be something else, okay? Maybe his culture has a different way that they quantify happiness. But for us, and the audience would recognize that giving him wonderful relationships in whatever form they are, whether it's romantic, friendship, a pet, a friends to lovers and enemies to lovers type of vibe, which again is romance, perhaps a parent-child relationship. Maybe he unintentionally or whatever, in some kind of way, shape, or form, now has to care for a child or a young person. And it's maybe not, these are stories that we've kind of seen, but we see them because they resonate, right? Point blank period. You know what I'm saying? We see them often and over again, and we still watch them, we still enjoy them, we still read them because they resonate. So that would be my answer to it without knowing all the details. But you, my dear my dear, my dear watcher, my dear listener, how would you answer this question? What ways would you bring this type of character out of their low point? Would you? Do you think it might be more interesting for the story for them to be in that low point? Would it depend on where we're taking the character? If we're making this character a villain, then we may need this character to stay in their low point. But if they're the hero, then yeah, we maybe want to bring them out, bring hope back, all that good stuff. But what do you think? Leave it in the comments below. How would you solve this problem? What are some other ways that perhaps are not quite as cliche, quite as seen and done, that you would bring this character to a higher point in their life? Let me know. I'm interested. Let's be like chill in the comments, because we're all friends here. Okay. You don't have to agree with me, but let me know why. Give me some other options. I'm still out here trying to learn too. All right. We're all trying to be better storytellers. So thank you again for joining me. As I said before, please let me know if you have any questions you would like me to answer on the podcast. And listen, have a wonderful day. Okay, listen, have a wonderful day. We love you. We meaning me, myself, and I. We all love you. Have a great day. Bye.